YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking through my October reads, but also going through a couple of my the end of my September reads as well, since moving into Liverpool. So I'm going to start by talking through my statistics. Now I will say I am halfway through Dolly Alderton's Good Material. I have included this book in my statistics and in my wrap up, and I will include an extra clip at the end when I finish this book of my thoughts and feelings, but just so you know, the statistics and everything include this book. So in October I have read 8 books. The genres are mystery thriller, I've read 2, non-fiction 2, YA 2, one was a YA romance, one was a YA mystery, and romance 2. 4 of those books were from my physical TBR and 4 of them were from the library. In total, that's 2,953 pages. And out of my TBR, my original TBR, the 4 books that I put on my TBR at the start of the month, I've read all 4. Well, I will have once I've read Good Material. So let's get into the books. So I've got my notes here because like I said, 4 of them are library books. I can't remember what order I read them in. So the first book I read this month was Silent Patient. Now, this book has been hyped up on BookTok, Bookstagram, BookTube for years. Everyone was raving about how great it was, and if you're a thriller fan, you should have read this. And I went into it knowing that, but also when books are hyped up, I'm very hesitant as to what I'm going to think about them, and I tell you what, I absolutely loved it. The twist at the end I didn't see coming. I just absolutely loved it. Would recommend to absolutely everyone. So I gave this book 5 stars. The twist at the end really took me from left field. It was absolutely incredible. The next book I read was a library book, and that was 101 Essays. I listened to this one on audiobook because I found it really difficult to read read the essays all the way through. It's basically 101 essays to help you change the way you think. I gave this book 3 stars. Now, for me, non-fiction generally is a 3-star category and 3-star range. I don't generally go any higher than a 3-star, nor will I go any lower than a 3-star unless I really, really, really didn't like it. I thought this was really good. I'm currently studying my masters, and actually one of the essays I shared to my course as well because I thought that really resonated with me, and it was a really nice listen whilst I was walking to get me to help think about my life, especially moving to a new city, and whilst I was walking around exploring that new city, it really got me thinking. So yeah, 3 stars. The next book I read was the second book in the Samaritan Pretty trilogy. I gave this one 3 stars. I, again, listened to this on audiobook, but also did tandem read this with the physical book. I gave it 3 stars. It was a middle of the road book. If you enjoyed the TV series, then I would definitely recommend. I think reading the books first, or reading the books when I was a teenager, when I was that young adult, then they would have hit differently and I would have really, really enjoyed them. However, I did enjoy it, and it felt really, really nostalgic, and yeah, it was a good, easy read, like easy palate cleanser read. I read it not long after moving in, so it's something that I just needed something quick, easy, and to kind of get on with things. The next book I read was The Brothers Hawthorne. I gave that one 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought this was the best book of the series, and actually it's made me think a bit more about carrying on with the series and whether I would want to carry on Read the Grandest Game. It follows the 2 brothers, Jameson and Grayson, on different mysteries and different set of challenges in their lives, and I really liked the way that it felt like a really good finishing book of the series and a good way to say goodbye to the characters, and which is why I'm a bit hesitant to read Grandest Game, because although I really enjoyed this book and I enjoyed it a lot more than the original trilogy, I felt this was a really nice way to wrap it up and finish off the series and say goodbye to the characters. The next book I read was another non-fiction, and it was the Dear Dolly book, and I gave that one, again, 3 stars. I enjoyed this one a lot more than the 101 Essays. I found this one was a lot easier to read and digest. It is an agony aunt column of Dolly's own personal agony aunt column for a magazine. She's compiled the best, or the ones that she felt were the best or resonated the most with her, and she put them into a book. And I really enjoyed it was really easy, kind of a mind-freeing thing just to hear about other people's issues, concerns, and your advice going through. And I liked listening to or reading the problems and thinking about like what I would do in that situation, and then seeing what Dolly would say in response as well. And just, it was kind of an easy, very chilled read for the end of the day. Wasn't a lot of thinking going into it. Yeah, it was a nice one. I liked that one. It wasn't insightful. It didn't get me thinking about my life personally. There was a few problems in there that I resonated with a little bit more, but not necessarily was I reading it to change my life or to take anything from it, but just to have that kind of old style magazine feel of someone's got a problem, they've written in what the answer's going to be. The sixth book I've read this month was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. I gave this book 4 stars. It's a contemporary romance, and you're following Georgie as she navigates a sticking point in her marriage. It's quite interesting to read and hear about and think about, like, what would I do if I had a magical telephone that rang back to the past? What would I do, and who would I ring, and where would I go? I found the book really hard to get into to start with, but as the story went on and as she started figuring out, so you find out that the telephone's magic from the blurb, so as she started figuring out that she was ringing the past, seeing her kind of brain process it and what she's going to do next. And so I think as the story went on, I found it a lot more interesting, and then I think by the halfway mark I was into it and I just needed to keep reading. And I remember texting my best friend, actually, I was on lunch in work and I had 6 pages left of the story. Now, any story you read, that is frustrating, but when you're really engrossed in the story, you want to know how it ends. And obviously there was this problem in the relationship, and so then to be near the end and be in that dilemma of, are they going to fix it? Is everything going to be okay? Is it not? And having 6 pages left to read and knowing that the kids are walking back in, I was done. I was like, no, I'm so frustrated, but I finished it as soon as I got home, and 4 stars, great book. I know there's going to be quite a few people that have read this book and loved it, and there's going to be a few people that have never heard of this book. I was on the never heard of this book camp, and this is A Time for Mercy by John Grisham. It's 464 pages, and I'm sure you can tell by my reaction already where this is going. It's about a small town cop that is trying to fight the defence case for a 16-year-old who shot a cop or a police officer who was abusing his mum. Now, the premise sounds amazing. The thought of a jury and a trial and everything is really, really good, and I really enjoy that. I'm one of these people that love like TV programs, Suits, and all the like Law and Order programs, and just watching all the kind of like mystery programs. I love all that sort of stuff. This fell flat. Over 400 pages, nearly 500 pages, and you have the main case, which obviously was the 16-year-old who shot the police officer, but then you've got a side case of a railroad, and it all fell flat. I didn't like the ending. I like books, unless they're a series, unless there's going to be another one, which there isn't going to be another one in this series, or there is another one, but it's a novella and it doesn't follow this storyline. So unless it's going to be another one in the series, I like my stories to be felt like they're tied up with a little bit of a bow, and they're at the end and they all come together. Now, I know some stories leave some of it up to intrigue and some of it up to kind of personal preferences to what happens next, which I completely understand, and those stories are still great. However, this one, you were left with thousands of unanswered questions, and I felt the initial half of the story dragged on, the jurors didn't come in, and the trial was done in the book it was in 3 days. I think it was over like 6 or 7, maybe maximum 12 chapters, I would say, was the trial. So yeah, it wasn't good for me. Didn't really enjoy it. 2 stars. But I do have 3 more John Grisham books on my TBR, and I really would like to try him again. If I read another one of his books and I don't enjoy it, then that's maybe where we have to stop. Okay, so those are my September reads. Oh, sorry, not September, October reads. my brain is all over the place. October reads, like I said, I will insert an extra clip at the end of my thoughts on good material, because I do hope to finish this within the next couple of days, which will mean it will be finished in October. So I'm just going to go back and go through, there's 2 different reads that I finished in September, and there's one that I really, really enjoyed, and one series that I absolutely loved, and I thought, what best place to put them in this video. So the first book that I started was Out on a Limb by Hannah Boehm Young. Again, another book that's hyped up on BookTube, Bookstagram, BookTok. Absolutely. Everyone's read it. Everyone's loved it. Everyone can respect the way that Hannah Boehm Young has represented people with disabilities, as well as the unexpected pregnancy trope, because I do fall into the category where it doesn't overly bother me. Now, I know for some people that is kind of the unexpected pregnancy trope is the be-all and end-all of a book. If it happens, they don't like it, automatically DNF, don't like. I know for some people it's can really harm their star rating, but they will plough through. And I know for some people they absolutely love it, and that's their perfect trope for a book. I don't fall into any of those camps, really. I don't mind. If it's there and it goes with the storyline, great. If it's the plot point for a third act conflict, not a fan. So this being the whole premise of the book, and her becoming unexpectedly pregnant and then them navigating life together, I really, really enjoyed. Now, I did find this book hard to get into. I did find this book slow. However, I do think some of that was due to the fact that I had started this within the last couple of days of my holiday, and then I moved back. I came back from holiday, and I was in the process of packing up all my things from home, seeing all my friends, seeing all my family, and moving up to Liverpool. And I had about a week in between that, and so this kind of fell collected to that, and therefore I really struggled to get into the story, get into the characters. When I got to Liverpool and I got into the story and I saw their love and friendships and found family develop, I absolutely loved this. Now, I ended up rating it 4 stars because I didn't want the premise of me moving and not being able to pick it up or not being able to get into it to ruin the star rating, because I did really, really enjoy it. And what you'll notice from this video is I'm not one to give 0.25, 0.5 star ratings. That might change in the future, who knows, but from right now I like to give 1 to 5 and kind of stick with it. But yeah, I didn't want me moving to Liverpool to ruin the experience I had with that book, and I think it did. And so I still feel, looking back on it now, it's a 4-star read. Moving on, the last lot of books that I'm going to talk about in this series, in this vlog, is the Heartstopper series. Now, Sarah Caroli, I was watching one of her videos, and I don't think it was a recent video, it might have been an old video of where she read one of these, and she was absolutely raving about it. Now, I have seen the TV series advertised and I've never watched it, and so I knew very, very little about this. She showed the inside of these books being a graphic novel, and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was a teenager, Simpsons comics I absolutely loved, and I've never found anything quite like it that I would enjoy. Again, I'm not really a comic book person. Graphic novels I've never really tended to lean towards. However, these books looked incredible, and I just wanted to pick them up. And I found books 1 to 4 on Vinted relatively cheaply, and ordered them while I was on holiday. Picked them up. Didn't actually pick them up because I was reading Out on a Limb, and I'm trying not to tandem read. I'm trying to only read 1 book at a time, because I find that I read books quicker when I only read 1 book at a time, whereas when I'm reading like 2 or 3 books at a time, it takes me a lot longer. I picked them up. I was trying to focus on Out on a Limb, and I have, to make sure I'm reading every day, I do set myself kind of a little limit or a little expectation each day of how much I should be reading, and it's only 2 chapters, whether that might be that they're 2 short chapters, 2 long chapters, depending on the book. And I find, rather than having a time goal, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I've got lots on, I find, oh my gosh, I can't sit down for half an hour and read 2 chapters, or read for 30 minutes. However, I do find that if I'm like, oh, it's only 2 chapters, that can be the same as 30 minutes, and yet I can fit that in. And so just to kind of enforce that I get my reading in each day as a piece of self-care for me, I've kind of put it on as a habit that I read 2 chapters a day. Now, with moving, with changing, with everything going on, I fell behind on that habit, and if I miss the 2 chapters, I will bank the 2 chapters. So I think I got to about 8 chapters behind. And Outside on a Limb chapters aren't the shortest, but they're also not that long. It mounted up to be an enormous amount of pages. And the more I was stressing about having to catch up, the worse I was getting at reading. And so I was like, what can I do? I need a book with really short chapters that I can whiz through the 8 chapters, and then I'll feel I'm back on top of everything again. I can get back into it. And I was like, I'll just pick up Heartstopper because it's a graphic novel. I'll just whiz through this. And I think in 1 week I read 4 books. Because they're so quick and easy, I was reading a book a night, and I was just whizzing through it and really enjoying it. I got so like involved in the story, and then I finished book 4, and I was like, well, now what do I do? And so I was on Google, and I found that the works of book 5, so I went straight there on the weekend and went and got it and ate the whole series up within a week, and absolutely loved it. Now, there are some trigger warnings that if you suffer with mental health, that you might want to be aware of. The first couple of books are generally a lot lighter, but I think it's book 3 and 4 really talk about it. And that's where, for me, I struggled a bit more with my ratings, and I found them a lot harder or a lot deeper to get through. And so those books, I think, individually were 4 stars. However, the series as a whole is a 5-star, and I think books 1, 2 and 5 I rated 5 stars. So take from that what you will. If you are someone that struggles with your mental health, it might be worth looking at the trigger warnings before going into it. But I do find the writer goes about talking about eating disorders and self-harm in a very nurturing way, and it's very well thought out, and it's not... I wouldn't say it was triggering. However, that's from my personal experience reading it. If you're someone who gets triggered by those things, then go into it with caution. But absolutely 5-star series, wonderful, loved them. Editing Lauren here, so I'm just popping it in with my review of Dolly Alderton's Good Material. So I finished this one this morning actually, and it's currently the 28th of October, so finished with enough time to start one of my books ready for November's TBR. But Dolly Alderton, Good Material, 4 stars. I really liked this book. Now, I went in a bit sceptical because of the hype. Everyone loved it, and it went through its time. And the difference perspective of it being a breakup from a male's point of view rather than a female's point of view, and obviously being a female myself, it was quite interesting to see the other side. And I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was quite a funny read. I found myself like actually laughing at times. Yeah, just really like the whole vibe of it was really good. And I liked at the end that you kind of saw back from Jen's perspective as well, which was really interesting to see the comparisons of a breakup, because like I say, I'm female myself, so every time I've gone through a breakup or a breakdown of a situation, it's always been the female perspective, and so to have both perspectives there at the end and compare them, that was really interesting. So yeah, I've had some great reads over the last month. I've had 1 5-star book and a 5-star series, 1, 2, 3 4 stars, 3 3 stars and 1 2-star. And yeah, including those series, that series and the Out on a Limb, I've read 4,940 pages, which is incredible. I do find that living away from home now, I have spent a lot more time reading, because I generally sit in on my own in the evenings, and it's nicer to sit and read on my sofa with a comfy book. So yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you had any 5-star reads this month, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. I've got some great videos planned for November, so I look forward to seeing you soon.